Hey, Jeff Carlisa here from 38 Special, and we're rocking it up right here with Traders Nation.
Welcome back. You are tuning in to Traders Nation. My pleasure to have with us here today Tom Gandolfi. He's founder and CEO of Three Bridges Financial Group. Tom, welcome to Traders Nation. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me today.
You're more than welcome. So listen, with all the tariffs flying around, it looks as if the United States is going to be lifting the steel and aluminum tariffs on Canada and Mexico. What's going on there?
I think we've got a few different things happening. You know, it's certainly in our interest to get the USMC deal done, and I think one component to this is probably Trump extending somewhat of an olive branch to try to get Canada and Mexico of the mindset that we do want to do a deal with them.
Sure.
At the same time, I think it's probably intertwined and interlaced with what's going on with China.
Okay, so certainly it is good for all three of our countries that get that deal through, and certainly and Mexico and Canada certainly favors the lifting of the steel and the aluminum at this point. So that would kind of clear the path to get the USMC done, right?
I think so. I mean, that's what's happening. It's sort of entertaining to watch this. I mean, the Trump administration is fighting economic battles on a number of fronts at this point, and I think that getting USMC done is probably one of the cornerstone pieces that Trump has calculated that it's got to happen, and this is, I think, a move to get that happening.
Sure. And it doesn't sound, because you mentioned China, because certainly Chinese were negotiating with the Chinese on trade and on another front, and that's a big deal also. Doesn't it kind of send the signal to the Chinese that, we can do deals, we can do fair deals, what we feel is fair, and certainly these things can be negotiated and worked out? Isn't that a signal to the Chinese when it comes to trade deals?
I think it absolutely is. The trouble we have, though, is regardless of the signals that we send, China doesn't want a new deal.
Yeah.
China has had an extraordinary trade situation now for 30 or 40 years, and they've had a lot of advantages that other countries have not enjoyed in doing trade with the U.S., and they don't want to change the rules. So I don't know that, yes, I do agree with you that this should illustrate the fact that we can be reasonable and we're willing to make deals and compromise and bend and do things that are in the interest of both parties, but I don't know that China wants to do a deal that's in the interest of both parties, and I think that's the crux of the problem.
Yeah, well, China's got to realize this, that they've been getting a sweetheart deal for a long time. Like you said, literally decades, okay? They have to realize they have been getting a sweetheart deal, and at some point during that time, they also have to realize that this really good deal for us could end, and we're pretty much at that point. Can't they realize that?
Well, they probably realize it, but the Chinese have a little different culture than we have over here in the U.S., and they're a little more of the show me or prove it mindset than we happen to be. We tend to trust before we verify, and the Chinese don't do things that way. So while they probably realize that they've enjoyed an extraordinary situation for a number of years, no one in the U.S. over that time period has proven that they've got the backbone to make China come to the table and make a more reasonable deal. So I think that's what this trade deal is about with regards to Trump and his tariffs. I think someone has to show the Chinese that we're serious, and that's what he's attempting to do.
Well, Trump's always been a hawk when it comes to trade with China, has been since the 80s, and makes no bones about it. So certainly the Chinese also realize that. But we've got to be careful, though, don't we? I mean, we really have to tap dance, weaning them off the sweetheart deals that they have been getting, don't we? And that's where the power of negotiation comes in.
Absolutely. I mentioned the cultural differences, and saving face or maintaining honor, however you want to determine or word it, is really important to them, probably more so than it is here in our country. And we need to find a way to reach a deal with them that allows them to say that they won.
Right. All right.
And that's not easy to do when you've got Trump as president, because he likes to win too.
He totally does. So this, like you said, this is almost like a spectator sport, isn't it? Watch it. I mean, really, you sit back and you got popcorn, and you're like you're watching both sides acting and reacting to each other's commentary when it comes to the Chinese and the U.S. trade deals. All right, so let's go back over to the USMC. Okay, so what does this mean? So let's say we get this passed. What's this mean for the United States and its workers, for American workers?
Well, NAFTA has been a disaster, and it's been an unqualified disaster. I don't think you'll find many people that can defend it, at least not defend it successfully.
Sure.
And NAFTA is responsible for so many of the jobs and factories that were lost over the last 30 or 40 years, and USMC is a better option. But I do think Trump has made it quite clear that he'll only make a deal that's a good deal for us.
Yeah.
And I think he does want it to be good for the other countries, but he's an America First guy, and USMC could certainly provide some of the benefits that NAFTA was supposed to have provided.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, NAFTA did provide. The only problem is NAFTA provided benefits to countries that weren't the United States.
Right.
So with a good USMC deal, I think that some of the jobs can come back. I think that manufacturing can be strengthened. Mm-hmm. And I think that it really is in the interest of all three countries to get something done that's beneficial for all three countries.
Right.
We've been sort of the big brother in NAFTA because we've got the largest economy, and Canada and Mexico have both benefited from our economic success, and I think it would behoove them to figure out sooner or later that if the U.S. is not successful economically, it'll trickle down and hurt them as well. So a deal that it is good for all three parties is certainly the target and the goal for everyone, I think.
Tom, it almost seems like our deals in the past have really been subsidies to the prosperity of other countries. And certainly we want good for them, but they should negotiate that instead of us giving that so we can have prosperity in our country. So there's got to be a way to where they have their organic prosperity, we have ours in all these deals. And I think President Trump's approach to our deals and trade deals with these countries have exactly that in mind versus the other way around. Your thoughts?
I agree. It's sort of referencing what I just mentioned a minute or two ago.
Yeah.
When you have a deal, if it's a trilateral deal like we've got with USMC, there's going to obviously be a strong partner in the deal, and in this particular case, it's the U.S. Mm-hmm. And each of the parties can benefit. I don't know that equally is the right terminology, but each of the parties can benefit. But if the cornerstone of the deal, which is the largest economy, doesn't do well, it's going to certainly affect the other economies. And Trump is trying to put us in a position where we finally take care of ourselves. You mentioned that so much of this has been subsidized or underwritten or however you want to put it with these other countries, and we've funded a lot of good in the world, and I don't mind doing that.
Right.
But we're reaching a point where some of the world's forgotten that we've done some of these things, and it's getting tough for us to do it. We've got a lot of national debt. Yeah. We've got immigration issues. I mean, we've got all kinds of problems, and it's time for something to work right for our country. And if it does, I suspect that we'll do as we have in the past, and we'll probably share in the prosperity.
Sure, absolutely. And we always have. It's in our good nature to do that. I mean, we always have. So I don't see why not. And certainly I think the rest of the world would want us to be in a good place because of our generosity. Absolutely. So the Democrats really kind of oppose USMC at this point. And they're raising concerns about environmental and labor provisions. But listen, is this just a road stick? We're out of time. I wish we had more time. Getting in the way of the president, but we don't have time to answer that. Hey, Tom, where can we find you?
Three Bridges Financial Group. You can look on the web for us at 3bfg.com.
All right, Three Bridges Financial Group. Head on over there, Google today. Get some good information over at Tom's site. Tom, thanks for being with us today. Certainly appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Good conversation. Bye-bye.
You're more than welcome. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.